What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is something that I saw trending on social media. So Tim Waltz is considering a run for president in 2028. All right, the Minnesota governor, who was the Democratic vice presidential nominee in last year's election cycle, is considering running for the Democratic presidential nomination. Um, Me personally, I think this is a complete waste of time. He has really no charisma. Um, even though the media tried to pump him up to be, some sort of, I don't know, sort of like a middle of the road, centrist, progressive. They thought that maybe because he was from the Midwest, he would have some appeal in states like Wisconsin, Michigan. That didn't work, as the Harris Waltz ticket lost all 7 swing states, including Wisconsin and Michigan. Matter of fact, Tim Waltz is a little bit, he's not the most progressive candidate out there, or most liberal candidate, but he's not exactly, I think, in the political mainstream at this point. Wasn't this the same guy that advocated that schools dispense suspensive tampons for what was it, elementary on up, or some loony boony goony bullshit? It's the same guy that got destroyed by JD Vance, who the media completely ignored as a goddamn cross dress. But anyway, he got his clock cleaned by JD Vance. Even though his probably was a gay, if he said he had many friends who were school shooters. Uh, you know, I just don't see this guy going anywhere, man. It's the same dude that has, last time I saw, only 6% approval, or 6% support when it comes to the Democratic primary field. Now, to be fair, we're talking about a primary that will probably be held, what, 3 years from now? So we're looking way down the road here. But when you have Gavin Newsom, when you have, I know she's not popular, but Kamala Harris is still there. When you have these other contenders, maybe AOC might run this time. You have all these other people who are considering Democratic runs for the nomination. Tim Walz just doesn't, to me, have that. He don't have it, man. To be honest with you, she wasn't even, he wasn't even her first pick. Her first pick was the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. But Tim Walz doesn't have any charisma, in my opinion. He's not a good debater. I think he's one of those politicians. He's tailor-made for his state and nothing more. Matter of fact, didn't Trump carry Tim Walz's home district in Minnesota during the election? I think he carried Tim Walz's home district. So he really did very little, even in the home state of Minnesota. I believe Trump made gains in Minnesota, despite his presence on the ticket. And to be honest with you, looking from a historical perspective, the losing vice presidential nominee on a losing ticket, how often do they get the nomination for president the next election cycle? I mean, I don't know if that's ever happened. I have to think about it, but I don't know if that's ever happened before. I know that FDR was Democratic nominee in 1920 when he was running with a man named James Cox, and they lost in a tremendous landslide to Warren Harding and Calvin Coolidge. But hell, FDR you know what I'm saying, ran for president a dozen years later. And it was a totally different political climate. We were in the Great Depression. But anyway, um, look, although I think about it, I think 1920 we were in a depression too, or at least a big recession. But anyway, yeah, that's never happened before. So I don't see this guy getting a nomination, man. For all we know, this might be some big grift on his part, some money making scheme uh, for Tim Waltz or whatever. But I don't see this going anywhere, man. I mean, just look at Tim Waltz, man. Did this guy like he be the president of the United States of you? Seriously. I mean, the Democratic ticket of Waltz and Kamala Harris and Tim Waltz had the worst electoral performance of a Democratic ticket from electoral vote perspective, at least, since what Mike Dukakis in 1988. So no, no, just stay your ass in Minnesota and do what you do. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he can run again for governor. I don't know if there's term limits in Minnesota. I'm not sure. You know, and last I checked too in Minnesota, as far as their government's concerned, there's a lot of corruption. You know, a lot of things negatively have happened in Minnesota the last couple of years. You know what I'm saying? A lot of tension, racial tension, a lot of strife. It is what it is, man. You need to take care of your state. They'll tear your ass apart, man. Anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think. Oh, by the way, could you imagine if he ran again against J.D. Vance? What those debates look like? Because we already saw a taste of that with the VP debate. Vance would destroy this dude. Vance is an actual. I think Vance is a scumbag, but Vance is a good debater and a more polished politician than Trump could ever dream of being. We saw that when we saw those VP debates, and we saw how J.D. Vance destroyed this guy. Could you imagine, with Vance now being president or the presidential nominee going up against this guy? And Vance would destroy this dude in the debates. You know, that's all I got to say. But tell me what you guys think.